Welcome to Day 83 of Future Business School's Daily MBA. Today, we'll be diving into a critical case study from the energy industry, specifically BP's crisis management during the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. This event, which occurred in 2010, was one of the largest environmental disasters in history and serves as an important lesson in corporate responsibility and crisis management. Introduction to BP and the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. British Petroleum, or BP, is one of the world's largest oil and gas companies, with operations spanning exploration, refining, distribution, and beyond. On April 20, 2010, the Deepwater Horizon drilling rig in the Gulf of Mexico, which BP had leased, suffered a catastrophic blowout. This led to the explosion of the rig, the tragic loss of 11 workers, and the release of millions of barrels of oil into the Gulf over the course of 87 days. The event not only caused widespread environmental damage, but also placed BP under intense scrutiny, raising serious questions about the company's safety practices, preparedness, and overall approach to crisis management. The immediate response to the crisis. In any crisis, swift action is crucial, and BP faced immediate pressure to respond to the disaster on multiple fronts: capping the leak, mitigating environmental damage, and managing public and governmental outrage. Containment efforts. BP's first priority was to stop the flow of oil from the well. However, several early containment efforts failed. Initial attempts. BP initially tried to activate the blowout preventer, a safety mechanism designed to close the well, but it malfunctioned. Later, attempts such as placing containment domes over the leak and using a top-kill procedure to pump mud into the well also failed. Capping the well. After several failed attempts, BP eventually succeeded in capping the well on July 15, 2010, nearly 3 months after the explosion, by using a containment cap known as the capping stack. While BP worked to stop the flow of oil, they simultaneously launched efforts to minimize the environmental impact. They employed dispersants to break up the oil slick, though this raised concerns about the long-term environmental impact of chemical use. In addition, BP used skimming vessels and other cleanup technologies to remove oil from the water's surface. Physical barriers, known as booms, were deployed to prevent oil from reaching sensitive coastal areas. However, these efforts were largely insufficient due to the magnitude of the spill. One of the biggest lessons from the Deepwater Horizon disaster was BP's struggle to manage its public image. The company's communication strategy initially faltered, leading to significant reputational damage. BP's initial public relations approach was widely criticized for being out of touch with the scale of the disaster. Early in the crisis, BP officials severely underestimated the amount of oil leaking into the Gulf. Their initial public estimate of 1,000 barrels per day was later revealed to be far too low, undermining the company's credibility and trust. BP's CEO at the time, Tony Hayward, made a series of comments that were seen as insensitive to the severity of the situation. His statement, "I'd like my life back," in particular, caused outrage as it came across as tone-deaf to the human and environmental toll of the disaster. Improved communication and public engagement. As the crisis continued, BP made efforts to improve its communication and engagement with the public. BP launched a series of public apology advertisements, acknowledging the severity of the situation and pledging to take responsibility for the cleanup and compensation efforts. The company created a dedicated website and social media channels to provide updates on the progress of the response and cleanup efforts. While this improved transparency, BP's earlier missteps continued to haunt their reputation. Managing legal and financial consequences. The financial and legal repercussions of the Deepwater Horizon spill were immense, with BP facing lawsuits, fines, and compensation claims that would total in the tens of billions of dollars. The cost of cleanup and compensation. BP's financial response to the crisis was massive. BP established a $20 billion compensation fund to cover claims from individuals and businesses affected by the spill. This fund helped cover economic losses for industries like fishing and tourism, which were severely impacted by the spill. The US government levied $18.7 billion in fines against BP, the largest environmental fine in US history under the Clean Water Act. In the aftermath, BP faced extensive litigation. The US government launched multiple investigations to determine the causes of the disaster, with BP ultimately being found responsible for gross negligence. BP faced criminal charges, resulting in a $4 billion settlement with the Department of Justice. Several BP employees were also individually charged with manslaughter and other offenses related to the disaster. The Deepwater Horizon disaster provides key lessons in how companies should approach crisis management and corporate responsibility, especially in high-risk industries. One of the most critical lessons from the spill was the importance of preparedness. Investigations revealed that BP had cut corners on safety protocols and failed to properly maintain its equipment, leading to the blowout. BP was criticized for not having adequate contingency plans in place to handle a disaster of this magnitude. The company's initial response was chaotic and uncoordinated, highlighting the need for thorough crisis planning in high-risk industries. Transparency and communication. A major lesson from BP's response is the importance of transparent and honest communication during a crisis. Acknowledging the severity, underestimating the scope of the disaster, and downplaying its impact eroded public trust in BP. Future crisis management efforts should prioritize accurate information and transparency from the outset. Leadership in times of crisis. The role of leadership during a crisis is critical. Tony Hayward's comments and perceived detachment from the disaster exacerbated BP's reputational damage. Leaders must be empathetic, responsible, and proactive in crisis situations. Long-term corporate responsibility. The Deepwater Horizon oil spill has had a lasting impact on how companies in the energy sector approach environmental responsibility. Stricter regulations. Following the disaster, governments around the world introduced stricter safety and environmental regulations for oil companies. These regulations focus on preventing similar disasters by requiring companies to adhere to more rigorous safety standards. Sustainability and public trust. BP has since made significant efforts to improve its environmental image, investing in renewable energy and sustainability initiatives. However, rebuilding trust takes time, and the shadow of the disaster still looms over BP's brand. Key takeaways. Preparedness is critical. BP's lack of crisis planning and failure to maintain safety protocols contributed to the scale of the disaster. Crisis preparedness and risk management should be a priority for any company operating in high-risk industries. Communication is key. During a crisis, transparency and timely communication are crucial. BP's initial mishandling of public relations damaged its reputation, highlighting the importance of honest communication. Corporate responsibility. BP has faced significant financial and legal consequences for its role in the Deepwater Horizon spill. This disaster serves as a reminder that companies must take their environmental responsibilities seriously to avoid catastrophic outcomes. Thanks for watching Day 83 of Future Business School's Daily MBA. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and join us tomorrow as we explore another fascinating business case study.